Yes. Thanks for coming along. Harry, Sensei Claudio, good on you, man. Hope everyone's well. All's good here. Don't forget, Paul Kniep, good to see you from Germany, all the way from the morning. We're like 10 hours ahead, so we know what's going to happen for you today. So if you want any insight, just give me a yell. Frederick from Sweden and Gaz from heaven on earth down at the Gold Coast. As always, if you haven't had a look at the Patreon page, feel free to look at Patreon and make sure if you get an opportunity to join in, become part of the Patreon family. It's a lot of fun, and I'm getting some great stuff ready. Look, I'm so sorry. I'm doing a number of different projects at once, and whilst I'm working on all mail outs are a little slower than I'd hoped. Mike Clark, was good to see you from Western Aussie. I was going to do a reading today from my new edition of the book, but I'm going to change that a little bit. Rochelle, Canada, us. Good morning, Francis. Nice to see you too. Yeah, so I'm not going to actually read from the Budo Karate of Masoyama. Today, I just thought I would actually read the start. Yes, good on you, Gaz. This is a shout out to the Kiwis. My buddy Steve Kearney, Ruben Wiki, Rubes. I worked with the Kiwis a number of years ago and had a lot of fun. I got to spend a lot of time with them over a week, and consequence. If you want to know whether your technique works against a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you, try it on the front row forward from the New Zealand Kiwis. They'll let you know whether it's working or not. So indeed, Gaz, nice observation. This is my shout out today. My daily t-shirt shout out is to the New Zealand Kiwis. Kia ora and us. Good on you. I'm on YouTube somewhere with the New Zealand Kiwis doing the haka in my underpants. And of course, I don't know anything about the haka, but we had a lot of fun. Okay, and that's the tradition. The first time you work with the Kiwis, you have to do the haka. Okay, so today, instead of doing a reading from the Budo Karate Masoyama, I'm actually going to read from the new book that I have coming up, which is, and this is a really extensive book, and I've been really enjoying doing it, but I've put it on hold until I get the second edition of the Budo Karate done. But this blueprint, I did it in connection to the Budo Blueprint logbook, and the whole objective of this was to give a background to the daily use of a logbook. And I have some really good news about that. I spoke to the publisher and printers today, the publisher and designers today, and I'd say the logbook should be available. You know, we're really seriously looking at the end of June. So within a couple of weeks, I'll have the training logbook. I brought my cup of tea today from Montreal. Shout out to all the Canadian Kyokushin people. I got this in Montreal when I was over there doing a seminar with Hugo Perez, and I've got it full of chai tea. I call it the poor man's chai. The poor man's chai, you know, making a good chai tea can be quite time consuming. The poor man's chai is easy. Look, I've got a tea bag, milk, and 3 C's, cardamom, cinnamon, and clove. You put those 3 in with a bit of honey, mix it up. It just tastes like a real cup of chai tea. He's that guy that just went past is rushing home so he doesn't miss the live stream. Rod, good to see you. So don't forget, folks, check out Patreon. And if you can, get along, and maybe you can even, if you're not already a member, just looking for that Patreon link. Maybe I can paste it here. There you go. check that out too. Kenneth Urs from Melbourne, nice to see you. And Rod from North Sydney, welcome aboard. So yeah, I've got this reading today. I want to get straight into it now. And it's the first section of my new book, which is coming out at the end of the year, called the Kyokushin Karate Budo Blueprint. And the subtitle for it is A Roadmap to the Best Training Results in the Optimal Amount of Time. I hope you enjoy this, because I really do believe that it contains some pretty interesting ideas. So this is from part 1, the foundations. Last session, if you remember on Wednesday, we had so much interaction, people leaving notes and comments and questions and their viewpoints, and it was so good. And I actually had 3 or 4 people get back to me and say one of the most enjoyable things was that interaction, to have people with so much knowledge and experience giving their viewpoint as well. So please, if you got any viewpoints, put it down. I'll be checking back with that every so often. Anyway, let's go. So chapter 1, focus and simplicity. Let this book be a conversation, a serious one about a serious matter. A lifetime of training should be taken seriously and planned accordingly. It is a conversation presenting concepts. Got to wait for those Harleys to go past. It is a conversation presenting concepts with anyone who would like to discover ways to make their training more productive. Not just a little more, a lot more. A conversation is a dialogue of ideas, not a monologue of demands. So take what you find and experiment. Add your own experience and ideas based on sound fundamentals and see what you come up with. Logbooks are an outstanding record of experimentation, and this book is all about my experiments over the last 50 or so years in Kyokushin. One logbook is worth 1,000 vague memories. The aim of the Budo Blueprint is to assist you in your pursuit of maximal training results, preferably as quick as possible, without cutting corners. That requires the use of a logbook, a training aid so valuable, yet so often overlooked. The difference between a blueprint and a goal is the step-by-step clarity. It is a goal with a purpose, a proven way to reach realistic technical mastery in an optimal time frame. Set time-specific goals and work consistently towards them according to the plan. It's as certain as mathematics. A well-kept training log plus a smart training plan plus consistent training equals sound progress. What is a smart training plan? A smart training plan drills, criticizes, experiments, questions, exposes weaknesses, and adjusts accordingly until the skill is effective under pressure against a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you. It rejects blind acceptance of any martial arts tradition, instead applying a pragmatic and honest inquiry. Ask questions endlessly. What are the fundamental keys to this technique? Where is my focus? Is the angle perfect to make this work? How does this help my training? How does this contribute to my mastery? That angle thing is actually, I'm digressing, but one of the keys to real leverage is the correct angle. And the perfect, simple illustration of that is if someone grabs you here, you reach over, you trap their hand, you come over, and you trap their hand. So if you can imagine their hand, under my arm. So their hand is not moving. It's not slowly until you get full resistance. And then you have your partner grab you, and after they grab you, bang, bang, and you close in and their hand is trapped. Okay, now wherever you go with your chest and movement, they have to go with you. Otherwise, the only way they can't is if they dislocate or disconnect their arm. Okay, now, at this position, when I've trapped a hand, there is zero effect. But by changing the angle, coming up, 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 and down, if I drop my shoulder there, I have his hand, you'll absolutely tear the wrist apart. And that is 100% determined by the exact correct angle. A lot of people play arbitrarily with angles when you work on the correct leverage. Okie doke. So I finished with how does this contribute to my mastery? Consistency brings exponential improvements in waves and spider webs. Growth is not linear. Basics provide a platform. You grasp one principle and two more make sense. You master those two and the door to understanding four more magically open. Each principle mastered takes you deeper and wider as one facet of training connects to another, like a series of small spider webs connecting, and principles are universally applicable. Whilst I primarily address training in my own chosen system, Kyokushin Karate, following the Budo Blueprint presented here benefits all fighting. The blueprint will help you understand more clearly the movement and fighting principles presented in all arts. There is nothing magic or mystical about the martial arts. All forms are fluent. That's a quote from my wrestling coach, Rico Ciparelli. All realistic fighting arts obey the laws of physics and human movement. And provided the laws of sound movement and power generation are adhered to, what determines a movement's effectiveness is the degree of willpower applied to it. So with that in mind, training honestly will quickly dispel misunderstandings and confusion between various fighting styles. You'll come to see more clearly the similarities of movement rather than the differences in the moves. Various traditions, for various reasons, deliberately attempt to create a perception of unique movement principles. Not so. The same principles of movement may have numerous names, numerous applications, and numerous variations amongst styles and systems, and even amongst teachers within the same styles. But at the end of the day, it is the movement, not the move, the action, not the act. Techniques vary, but principles are universal. Students of all styles and systems will benefit from the principles explained here, and by applying the same approach to their own art, will understand even more deeply the foundations of movement therein. The principles of movement are universal, and an experienced martial artist will know that these principles find a multitude of expressions in the countless martial arts of the world. Nevertheless, whilst movement may be universal, every student is different. You are one of a kind, unique, and the you is possessed by no one else. I was translating for Masoyama on a tour of the USA in 1992, and he was asked to define Kyokushin Karate. He replied that there is no Kyokushin Karate. His answer confused those present for a moment, including me, until he explained, there is no Kyokushin Karate. There is Michael Karate, Masoyama Karate, Cameron Karate, your karate, my karate. You must make your own karate. Us, Patty, just saw. Al, good to see you. Just having a quick check. So don't forget, guys, join in. If you've got any comments or questions, leave that in there and let's create a nice, lovely discussion. Okay, you must make your own karate. Training, whilst built on a strong foundation of core principles that apply to every attributes. Initially, you must build a strong foundation of technically solid skills, so the notion of making your own karate needs to be treated carefully. Consolidate and master the universal principles at the foundation of karate, then you can make it your own. That can start at around brown belt, provided you haven't rushed and have the fundamentals in place. From black belt, continue training by asking questions and experimenting. Asking your instructor for guidance throughout your training is important as it saves time. Not asking questions or experimenting with what you have learned, however, means progress will be slow. And if your instructor does not encourage you to question and experiment or can't answer your questions, well, what can I say? On another occasion, whilst translating for Soulside, kind of going around in circles as different people suggested different things. Finally, the group of instructors fell silent and turned to Soulside. He smiled and said, well, there's only ever one right way to do a technique, but if the way you do it knocks them out, that's the right way. Build the right base on sound fundamentals, then create your own karate. The Budo Blueprint facilitates this better than any other way I have seen. Think, use your God-gifted intelligence. I have done my best to exclude anything I have not tested myself, or that perhaps requires a leap of faith or a dogmatically blind belief common in many traditional martial arts. As Bruce Lee said, reject the useless and absorb the useful. To find what is truly useful for you means a number of things may happen. One, you'll get the results that everyone else gets, which makes you one of a huge, very average majority. Two, you'll possibly get injured training in a way not suitable for you. And three, you'll never truly realize your own unique potential. Don't train to be like someone else. Instead, be inspired by the great ones upon whose shoulders we all stand, even as you find your own karate. If you want to rise above the crowd, you have to go a step further. You have to find your own uniqueness. By following the blueprint provided here and using a logbook as a tool to record your training and reflections after each session, you're already way above the average, way above the line in the top 3%. Your level of mastery will expand or contract in perfect belief system. If you believe you're average, you are. If you believe you are extraordinary, you are. As the saying goes, attitude determines altitude. Clarence Us from South Africa, welcome. Good to see you. Different training plans work around different cycles. You might find working in monthly blocks works well, or weekly. For me, 3-month blocks has worked best. Some things can't be rushed, yet with the correct roadmap, the journey is faster, safer, and more rewarding. But don't dawdle. As cliche as it sounds, time truly does fly, whether you're in the game or not. Don't let it fly by without you being in it. Every day matters. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I have a quote here from Steve Jobs. That's been one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple. But it's worth it in the end, because once you get there, you can move mountains. The Budo Blueprint comprises of 29 sections plus a suggested reading list. Each section could have, and in some cases has had, an entire book written about it. So I have had to restrain my verbosity and do my best to get to the point. I'm sure more will come soon, but for now this book covers the primary keys that I think are important to the areas addressed, my thoughts on what to work on and look for from the start of your training, what to prioritize, and how to stay on track over time. It offers what I feel are they cover to cover. You can read one section at random whenever you have time. Use a pencil, make notes in conjunction with your logbook. And as I said, that logbook, I'm going to make that available. I mean, for a logbook, you could probably use a notepad or anything if you don't have one. But I've put together what I think is a fantastic logbook that you can use daily and keep them over time. And I've designed the logbook in a way that sometimes logbooks have 1 day per page. And there's an awful lot of paper for 1 day if you only do a little bit of training. So what I've done is I've designed it so that you can absolutely maximize the amount of use you have out of that logbook. And that's going to be available. The final design, today's Friday, the final design is Monday. It's being submitted to the printer by the end of next week. And it's just a matter of a couple of weeks maximum probably a week after that when they'll be available. So I'll put information out that line. If you'd like to order one, you can do that through me. I think it'll be a fantastic part of training. Okay, so that's what I refer to when I say logbook. For best results, record your training notes in your logbook after every session. The devil is in the detail, and our memory is just not enough. At any stage, you can review your logbook for details concerning training, techniques, combinations, flows, and other content. Record completed training details as well as long-term goals and objectives. Do you have 9 to 12 minutes once a week to review your written goals? Update as required. By having your goals at hand, the purpose of every training session is clear. It removes question marks and confusion. At any moment, on any day, you know exactly where you are, where you're going, and what you need to do there to get there. What you need to do to get there. You are on the road to training success, and simply working that gap, the gap between where you are and where you envision being. Dream big and stamp it with a timeline and a plan. Find your own style within the principles of combat strategy. Find the warrior within you, not just for your martial arts training, but for life. It is only when we approach life as a warrior that life finds purpose. Take these ideas and fit them to your own body, mind, and spirit. Be comfortable with experimenting. This freedom of expression, however, should always be based on certain unchanging principles of training and movement. So that's the first section of this book. Where's Tony? Good to see you, man. Graham, nice. How are you? Love the shirt. Yep. Go the Kiwis. This is my shout out today to Ruben Wiki, Steve Kearney. I don't even think Steve Kearney's the coach anymore, because when he took over the Warriors, he might have had to change. And all the boys in the New Zealand Kiwis, had a great time training with them. Brought to them a lot of these principles that we're talking about, actually, particularly setting courses, training programs, spending 9 to 12 minutes, and it doesn't take any more than that. If you can find 9 to 12 minutes the day before to plan the day coming up tomorrow, when you wake up, you jump out of bed on the run and you don't procrastinate. You get out of bed and bang, 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 and you achieve so much more during the day. I have a little bit more I can read, but if anyone comments about that so far, please put them down and let me know. I really think it's going to be a great book. Okay, the next section is called Training Above All Else. I am conscious of how a book such as this can misdirect the reader away from actually training, as the reader gets caught up in the reading. Musashi's Book of Five Rings is perhaps the best known martial arts book written, and it has millions of fans, many who have never trained. Then there are countless numbers of martial artists who have read the book, know it inside out, and can quote it endlessly, yet have never deeply applied it in their training. Yet virtually every paragraph Musashi wrote describing the technique of the sword finishes with a directive, describing the technique of the sword, put a comma there, finishes with a directive that this cannot be understood or mastered is everything. Training is not a process of osmosis. You have to do the work. This is why everything is about the daily consistency. Even a little training every day is better than hours of reading and speculation. As much as I understand everyone has their challenges, you have to do the work. You have to set a plan, get up early, and do the work. Stop procrastinating, denying ownership and responsibility, making excuses, finding reasons, even legitimate ones, not to train. Get up and train. There is no other way. Masoyama used to say that the answers to every question will reveal themselves in training. Frank Everett, my first instructor, used to smile at people talking too much about the talk later. The keys to everything can be found in the training. If there is a principle or idea that you find here that you think might work for you, have a training plan in mind and do it. Take that section, idea, or principle and work on it with a training partner until its keys reveal themselves to you. Keys are always hidden deep. And unless you burrow down deeper and deeper through training, you'll never find the gems hidden there. This is far more important than reading it and talking about it. Don't go on to another section until you've experimented and trained that principle or training concept sufficiently to form an idea and understanding based on your own training. Sensei Cody, I started a logbook of my daily training since the closure started, and although I have a logbook of my kids, and also I have a logbook of my kids' class, you need to keep a track of what you've been teaching the students, okay? And by keeping a logbook of it, you know. Mike Clark, yes, always principles first. Make karate your own. Making karate your own is not the same thing as making your own karate. I see my karate as a solo challenge, sometimes done in the company of others. Yeah, that's so true. I'm just going to adjust my legs. I've been sitting in Seiza. I can't allow myself to sit in any other way except Seiza because it bends my back. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to see if I can adjust a little bit. And my legs are asleep 100%. So I'm just going to let them wake up before I go back to Seiza. Yes, so true. And that's why, Mike, I added that section. Oh, Damien, good to see you, man. That's why I added that little comment about how you really shouldn't start. You have to dig deep and master the principles. You have to have, and I've talked about all this in the book, but you have to have a clear degree of mastery of the fundamentals. You have to have faith in the fundamentals, and you have to stick by the fundamentals. And if you do that, then everything else comes a lot easier. Yeah, I mean, like Sensei Claudia is saying, if you keep a track of that, you have a blueprint. Okay, it's one thing to train, but it's another thing to train with a clear plan. And I'll go on here. So get started and stay the course. Here is a simple approach that you can apply from your first day in the dojo. Work with them, not against them. Be patient. Appreciate the value of small incremental improvements. 2, increase your flexibility. Flexibility is the mother of skill. Many techniques just don't work well without flexibility, especially flexibility in the spine. Yet, because the techniques are the fun part of training, everyone jumps the gun and goes straight there without working on flexibility enough. Build a base. Flexibility into basics, into movement. Get the hierarchy right and your skills will continue to build on a solid foundation. 3, base your karate on intelligent leverage. Intelligent leverage means using timing, angles, and speed to leverage your power. Think of a time you lost your balance and tripped heavily. You leverage your movement with gravity. Making that happen is a real skill. It takes a lot of work to get to where your skills are perfectly coordinated. I know you're strong. I want to also know if you're skillful too. Embrace that mindset. 4, to that end, accept getting hit, getting kicked, being taken down or dominated round after round with the right attitude, an attitude of gratitude. Welcome whatever comes and analyze it deeply, asking yourself each time why it happened. Know it is good. Acknowledge their skill and continue determined to patch up the defensive holes your opponent revealed to you through which he could score. There is no failure, only feedback. Sorry for using all these cliches, but they're pretty good. That's why they're cliches. The more you're getting hit, the better you're getting. Only the ego stops us from embracing that truth. Let go mentally. Every time you get hit, acknowledge with a loud "us" and be grateful. Your training partner has helped you find a hole to be shut. If he can't find a hole, he can't reach his goal. Shin Gi Tai, this is number 5, Shin Gi Tai. All areas of the mind, technique, and physical conditioning need to be addressed in training, as no quality skills can happen without all 3 playing their part. 6, Kihon training helps you familiarize yourself with the stances, footwork, weapons, and techniques upon which you build a base. There is no one secret that will accelerate your mastery of Kihon or any skill for that matter. Know exactly what you're hitting with, where you're hitting to, and how you're hitting. Mastery will come in time. For now, aim to experience everything, not master everything. I'm just going to quickly check here. I'm just reading a comment, Mike. Yeah, that's a good point. Solo training, a solo challenge done in the company of others. I mean, even when you're in the company of others, there's 2 ways I like to approach that. Is one, I have to be the best training partner I can be. So if I'm with a good training partner, I get better. So I have to make myself the best training partner I can be, and that way they get better. And when they get, you got a dojo, literally, I don't have a lot of students, to be quite honest. My little dojo down at the Gold Coast has a group of guys who all started as 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and they've all come through the ranks, and they all did their showdown, knee down, sundown together, and they still train together, even through the virus. They, practice their social distancing, but I've made the dojo available to anyone, and they all have a key, and they all train. And, that being able to work together, not with your focus being 100% on your own training, but being focused on helping your partner be better. It's fantastic, and it fires off those chemicals in the brain that makes you feel good. Someone helps you, you get a kick out of it. And then they help someone else. And then the bloke over there is watching and he sees you, so he gets a kick seeing it, So anyway, got to help. Good, Hus. Thanks for coming, man. Getting hit and trained is receiving love. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I have trouble accepting that when I get choked down, see stars and go semi-unconscious. And then they smile at me and go, that's the love. Yeah, Us, good to see you, man, all the way from Denmark. Not Denmark, what did I say? Norway. Yeah, good to see you there. Rod, this is a fundamental concept, to be the best training partner. Yes, that if you walk into my dojo at any time, I'll say, what is the number one priority in training? Everyone will go, don't get injured. What is the most important thing? Be the best training partner you can be. Yes, the spirit of onegai shimasu. That's true. Onegai shimasu is a word which, if you've trained traditionally Kyokushin, as you walk into the dojo, onegai shimasu, and before any interaction with one person, onegai shimasu. It's just a word to say, thank you and please let's cooperate together and work together. Okay, point 7. Default position is a mobile stance with perfect control of your balance and shape. That is the launching point for everything that follows. I'm just going to make a slight change. Then drill your footwork, which gives you control of angles and distance. Think, and here it is, look. Think iPad. I'm going to open my iPad. Oops, there's iPad. Think of my iPad. Okay, why do I say that? Well, I use acronyms, and iPad stands for I control posture, angles, and distance. Get iPad right, and you limit his attacking opportunities. That means you frustrate him and create impatience. I'm talking about kumite here. iPad is an acronym. It just means I control posture, angles, and distance. So there are 3 fundamental Kihon, fundamental principles you have to master if you're going to think in terms of improvement over time. Eight, focus on footwork. Coordinate footwork with techniques and defense. Use it to control angles and distance. Offense is based on defensive soundness. Close all the loose defensive holes. Footwork will allow you to minimize his effectiveness and maximize yours. Most often when I train in different dojos and in different countries, even amongst high-ranked black belts, is a lack of how to move smoothly. Master angles with good footwork. Poor footwork means you can't apply your skills. Good footwork allows you to control the offense and return to default position outside of his dead zone with him exactly in your crosshairs. 9, defensive survival leads to opportunities. Good defensive shape reduces his opportunities. That takes him out of his comfort zone, forcing him to move in a way that offers you opportunities to counter-attack. Defensive survival to opportunities to counter to victory. And in kumite, experiment with counters as opportunities arise. So in the kumite, in the 7 stages of kumite, you remember I call this my karate. You have to be careful here. I'm not suggesting that you just lash out and do your own thing without having first mastered the fundamentals. That's why I say once you have the basics of default stance, and getting the default stance right can take years, okay? Because you've got the balance, the degree of tension and relaxation through the lower body. Focus on the tanden, close your wakis, relax your shoulders. Are my elbows in? Where's my gaze? All that can take a long time to master. Try different stances, angles, combinations, and techniques. What allows you to best maintain control of the offense? Keep returning to control. At first, let the brain cling to survival. In time, as your defensive shapes give you confidence, use your techniques to counterattack more freely. 11, continually refine your defense and counter skills with ever greater detail. Ensure all the body parts are in the right place at the right time. The finer the detail, the clearer the process. 12, master gedan defense. That's lower defense. This facet of Kyokushin is vital. And I can tell you now too, one thing. Yeah, good footwork is 100% allows you to get hit less simply because you can control the distance, and their being able to hit you requires them to be at the optimal distance. So if you can just change that footwork, you get hit a lot less. So when I say gate and defense work, and this there's another section which I've spoken about I have a whole section. Mike, you'll be interested to know, Mike Clark. I have a whole section in this book on Shingi Tai, and in that I talk about the lower body training. But one thing that I've found, and over the years I've really, like with all my traveling, I've walked into kung fu schools, I've walked into wrestling gyms and different styles of karate, kickboxing, Muay Thai gyms, everything. I've just loved making myself available. And if there is one thing that is the great equalizer, it is if you have a good high level of Gedan defense and Gedan attack, well then it really serves you very well. You can instantly neutralize a lot of potential that people can do. If you have good solid attacks as well, you can also neutralize what their attacks are able to do. Master Gedan defense. This facet of Kyokushin is vital. If your legs are damaged, your footwork is compromised, and once that happens, the task of victory is difficult, even impossible. Mastery of this one factor will bring tremendous advancement. Find and develop your own style of checking, countering, and simultaneously attacking based on sound principles. Drill scenarios. 3, if your transition to the opening and your attack arrives before his defense, you win. So I'll just say that again. If your transition to the opening and your attack, that timing and speed comes from mastering sequential flows. Speed is good, but accuracy is better. That's a quote from Wyatt Earp. Have a plan and execute it smoothly with control. And that, again, the speed part connects to that smoothness. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That takes hours on the floor. Step 14, chain together combination flows using simple concepts that connect defense seamlessly with attacks. Take into account your attacks being countered. Defense into attack into attack into defense, attack into defense into attack. Seamless and smooth. Okay. I've got a couple of quotes there. I won't worry about reading them. I've got a whole table there, which is a flow. Okay, let me just go. I won't go through the detail. I've got two sides to it. Left is the step name, right is an explanation. But the steps are this. You take a new skill or theory and you research it. Then you create a drill. Then you test that drill under pressure. Then you troubleshoot and tweak the drill. Then you retest it. Then you replicate it and share it. Because if something you do isn't because it won't obey a universal principle, that's what I mean. If you have something you think is the bomb and you can't teach someone else how to do it, well then it's wrong, I think, personally. Just because someone can't do it at first attempt is not the point. Okay, so you'll find if you come to my dojo at any time, I could literally not turn up for training. Or I could literally be there and say to a blue belt, you take the class and you take this technique. And you'd have a 12-year-old kid could take a class and explain a technique better than I've seen some third dans do it. This 12-year-old might be a blue belt, but he will have clarity on every step of the way. And he will say, here, you do this, da, 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 da. And that really is important. If you can't replicate and share it, if you can't teach it, it means you don't understand it. It's that simple. Rudd. Mike, I'm interested in everything you got to say. You know, I read your book every day too, by the way, but it's a long read. It's not something you'll sit down with and read overnight. So I actually, I have it next to my chair where I sit every morning and I read it. So I'm interested in what you have to say too, Mike. Rudd, good footwork and defensive shapes seem to be the best way to do a lot more without doing anything. Being in the right place at the right time counters for a lot. Yeah, being in the right place. Yeah, exactly right, Rudd. But when I say right place, right time, one principle which I swear by is one of the fundamental Kihon principles is having all the body parts in the right place at the right time. What that does is it allows the neurological processes to maximize. It means your neurons are firing at the right time, in the right order. Everybody can do a punch, but the difference between a knockout punch from a champion boxer and a punch from a beginner is simply getting the body to work in the right neurological order. It's that simple. And good footwork is so key, man. Harry, being of age and having a long break from training and now returning to the dojo with a mind full of past experiences, and now I find it a battle between mind and body. Yeah, but I mean, that battle never goes away. I mean, it's a battle between mind and body, even for people who don't train, as you know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know because you're a couple of years older than me. But it's so true. But I think if you follow this idea of a step-by-step clarity and process, Harry, it'll make it a lot different, you know, and it all comes down to those three keys of Kihon: grasping and hanging on to the beginner's mind. And you've got to be careful. People in your boat, Harry, are always in trouble because when you have so much experience, you know, you're a black belt and you come back after many years, quite often a lot of that experience has to be relearned and retaught and assimilated. And so that's why that first step of keeping the beginner's mind all the time is important. Okay, then the next step is simply keeping conscious of the Tanden. And what that is those 4 steps of Aikido make it work really well. Relax completely, keep the weight underside, extend your energy, and What's the fourth one? Just slipped my mind. Relax completely. Keep the weight underside. Keep your consciousness at the tanden. That's it. And extend your energy. So if you do that, you know, they're the 3 points of really good basics. Yeah, you're reading it too, Rod. That's good. Good read. Yeah, makes you really think about everything. Move so you can apply the brakes and still keep your balance. Okay, so this is really important. This is why I rarely, if ever, sometimes I find that the place and time for it is right, but I rarely, if ever, use maximal. So, yeah, good on you, Al. Ordering the book. It's a great book. So sometimes people think maximal. Maximal can be dangerous because it implies a degree of loss and control. You want a degree of control within the abandon. To draw on the old Carlos Castaneda book, A Journey to Ixtlan, where he talks about abandon and control. It was really one of my favorite books 40 years ago, by the way, Journey to Ixtlan. But in that, he talks about abandon and control. You can't always think in terms of maximal. And that's why I always use the word optimal, because optimal takes into account everything you have to take into account. Move so you can apply the brakes and still keep your balance. Be aware of your balance. Balance is keeping your weight centered within yourself, which is a Benny the Jet Urquidez quote. In kumite, have control of your balance. Having control of your balance comes from 1, good posture, 2, good vision, 3, good footwork, 4, good control of distance, and 5, relaxation. I'm just making changes as I go. 16, control the offense. Those 3 words are really, really key, and they indicate a high level of mastery. Control his opportunity to defend and counter. Control everything as you systematically improve your position. Remove the chance of surprises. Surprise attack is the oldest trick in the book, and it still works well. Reduce the possibility of a surprise attack through micro adjustments, keeping them in your crosshairs. Okay, and this I think is really important because a lot of martial arts don't believe in kumite. They don't believe in hard kumite. They don't believe in competitions. Almost without exception, I find martial arts who don't believe in competitions are actually trying to run away from the reality of their lot. Because if you don't have competition, you don't have a plan B. And a lot of martial arts work on a plan A and that's it. They always say, it doesn't matter what anyone does, I have the answer. If they attack me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and there is no solution. And then what happens is someone own dojo and they have no plan B. Okay, moving on. 17, work with your partners in kumite and discuss fine points at the first opportunity. If you're focused on the process of training rather than the outcome of every round, you can be comfortable with being freely scored on, which gives you the mental freedom to experiment with your creativity. Don't take yourself seriously. Be a central part of a great team who others love working with. Okay, so that means when you're sparring, your primary goal is not always to win every round. There's a time and place for that. Like when you're grading, your objective is to win every round. I remember when I did my second dan at Hombu in '84, I had to fight. So the priority is to go out there and win. So what I did is my first guy, I absolutely smashed him. I went out, and this was a nice guy that I trained with regularly, and he was used to me being kind of soft and easy in the dojo. I went out there and I smashed him, and there's this great photo of me standing over him like I'm about to, stomp on his face. And they had to drag me off. And I did that for like the first 3 guys. And what it meant was everyone who came after that was a little bit intimidated. So it allowed me to control the offense a lot better. Don't force it, finesse it. This is step 18. Don't force it, finesse it. Never attack when they are at their default position or at a strong set point. If a particular technique is not working as you expect, check what's missing in the flow and reshape. It may be that you are missing one key point that allows your opponent to maintain balance and control. So it could mean your angle is wrong. You're not changing the angle properly. Could mean your timing and distance is wrong. If your distance is 6 inches out, of course they're going to be able to maintain balance and control. There's the only way you can steal control from them, balance from them, is angles and distance, and surprise and timing, of course. Reassess the flow and fix it so his ability to defend is weakened. Only attack when his defense is compromised. Draw him out of his comfort zone. Okay. And I have a little bit more there, which I'm not going to, I might read it. I call this a step at a time. And step is a 4-letter acronym. So I've got it in block letters. I like acronyms. There are plenty herein. They help me and help anyone who uses them to recall things. One important acronym for getting going with skill development and training is STEP. S, start training. T, trust the progress of the process. E, evolve consistently, both you and your process. So it means you don't expect to evolve without changing your process, okay? Because you have to go from, you have to go from Rochelle 1.0 to Rochelle 2.0. So the process has to change. You have to reprogram the process even as you improve. And P stands for patience. So STEP, start training, trust the process, evolve consistently, and patience. Take the first step in the right direction. Taking the first step in the right direction means being clear about what you want to get, where you want. Don't take anything personally. See every experiment in the dojo as a lesson that will ultimately benefit you in your martial arts training. That alone will change everything. 2, know that everything, good and bad, is in you. Your daily habits are both the source of your growth and learning and the obstacle that slows your progress. What you think, say, and do, as well as the way you react emotionally to inevitable ups and downs, will determine your training trajectory. 3, some facets of training need to be addressed as regularly as possible. And usually they are not the exciting things. The excitement will come when you master a principle or technique as a result of your focused effort. Find your own is to come. Technical mastery requires dedicated and focused effort. It is supported by physical conditioning, not replaced by it. If you're naturally fit and fast, take extra care to develop excellence in technique that you don't develop, so that you don't develop a habit of falling back on your natural physicality when technique is lacking. That often happens with big, strong guys. Because they're big and strong and get away with a lot of things. But don't do that. That's why in training, you don't take everything personally. I know some students that take the smallest thing very personally in training. They can be training with someone who's a rank well below their own rank, but because they haven't been training consistently, that person actually touches them up a little bit. They take it so personally. They get angry. And they say to this person, dude, you're in trouble. You keep that up, I'm going to smash you. And it's like, really? The biggest impediment to ongoing training improvement in a group is that ego, is that idea that because I have a black belt on, the yellow belts aren't meant to be able to touch me. You want to encourage it, man. I tell you, there's nothing better than a dojo where the colored belts are encouraged and drawn up. The black belts are going, wow, that was good. That was so good. We have a guy in the dojo, Peter Collis, man. He's a legend. Anyone in Australia knows Peter Collis. 10 times he made the final of the Australian. He made the final 16 in the third world tournament. He was fantastic, and he still is. And he's training now at like 57, and he'll still spar hard and train hard. And some yellow belt will score on him, just like bang, time it perfectly. And Peter will go, how did you do that? And that humility is just what you need, You just don't take everything personally. Number 4, inspiration comes from without, motivation comes from within. Don't go looking for motivation outside. Get inspired, but motivate yourself, okay? Do not depend on always being motivated or encouraged by someone else. Motivate yourself. Set your goals and take the steps required. No one else can do that for you. You've just got to train. It's that simple, okay? A little bit to go. 5, be the kind of training partner everyone wants to work with. Be humble, helpful, pleasant. No one likes a self-righteous, arrogant bully, or even shades of that. Make sure you're a good person, then just be yourself. A good instructor will never look down on you, nor should you ever look down on anyone. And at the same time, a good instructor will make sure that you know you're as capable of mastery as he, if you just make the effort. So beyond the usual expression of respect between two people, there is no need to see anyone as better than yourself. Never minimize your training partners or exaggerate another's skill. That way, everyone will be a teacher and you will be a teacher to everyone. Yeah, you need criticism. That's good. I've got something interesting here. I came up with a saying, and I didn't copyright it, but I did write in my book. The saying is, a black belt is a white belt who never gave up. And everyone's heard it. And I've seen it on the internet. Black belt is a white belt who never gave up. Masayama. Black belt is a white belt who never gave up. Gichi Funakoshi. A black belt is a white belt who never gave up. Elio Gracie. But who never gave up. And those are the words I use in the book. But on the dojo wall, I always had a poster which said a black belt is a white belt who never gave up. So unfortunately, I didn't claim the copyright to it, but everyone who's been in the dojo since the 80s and who's read the book knows that. And that's a really beautiful saying. A black belt is a white belt who never gave up. I got it from Mike Clark's book. That's true. Okay. But anyway, that's what that's about. Be the type of training partner who wants to be with. You'll realize that you can encourage people and they encourage you. Okay, last little bit. Continued improvement implies 2 things: consistent right effort and a good training plan. The growth will come in time. You have everything you need to start training today. Not sure? Find some space, bend down and do some push-ups. Follow that with some deep squats. Then have a stretch by reaching up as high as you can on the tips of your toes, one arm at a time. That takes about 2 minutes. The point is that too many people wait until everything is perfect before getting started, and the start never comes. Yet the key is in the doing, not in the planning. The plan will improve soon enough. Let the perfect preparation look after itself. Some of the best training I've ever done, and some of the best meditations for that matter, have been in absolutely not perfect circumstances. It is not the outer situation that matters anywhere as much as your inner mental environment. I promise you, if you just start and stay focused, results will come. The 1,000-mile journey begins with a step, then another and another. If you train consistently and think enough about what you're doing, the plan will improve, the training will improve, and the result, sense of urgency. That means take your time, but be quick about it. Okay, so I'll stop there. That's the first few pages of my new book, the Kyokushin Karate Budo Blueprint. And I think the book's going to present some really interesting stuff for people. A lot of fun. Yeah, that's true. One of the best ways that you can ever learn for yourself is to teach kids. That's true, Sensei Claudia Harry. I have trained with many that don't appreciate positive comment or action. You just have to keep at it, you know. There's nothing better. I mean, you can come to our dojo on any night of the week, and if we're sparring, you'll hear Peter Collis, the 4th Dan. He's the senior student in the dojo. Well, he's I don't even look at him as my junior. He's not. And we fought off in the final of the Australian titles in 84 and 86, by the way, too. We come from the same high school, started at the same dojo, so we have a long history together. And And you'll always hear Peter goes, oh, yeah, oh, that was so good. Oh, you know, and oxytocin, the wonderful thing. Could you imagine you're a yellow belt faced with Peter Collis, 5 times national champion, best 16 in one of the toughest tournaments ever, 4th Dan. He's got a hand the size of a baseball glove, and you're sparring him, and you're intimidated, and you go, oh, dude, and you start and you hit him, and he goes, wow, that was so good. Do you think the oxytocin is going to start pumping? Of course it is, man. Okay. So anyway, that's just the initial part of my new book, and I hope you find it interesting. It's just a teaser, of course, because I really think that the book is full of some great stuff. And like I said, it connects with the logbook. And the logbook, I spoke to the publisher today. The cover design, the graphic designer is doing the cover today. It's just a simple thing. It doesn't have to be too sophisticated. We're picking the right coated paper so that when you're sweating and you write on it, it doesn't, absorb the sweat too much. And it's a really good logbook that gives you an outline of how to go about setting your daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, 6 month, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10-year goals. Okay. And when you have those long-term goals in place, you work backwards and go from there. And this little logbook has some really, really, really great, training ideas. Look, there are logbooks anyway. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you don't want to spend the money on a logbook, you just get a notepad and keep notes. But the key is in keeping the notes. But what I love about this logbook is that, and the way I've designed it, like I said, it can last, if you fill it up with your notes, it can last 3 months or it can last 3 years. Just depends on the volume of training. But it has some really key pages that allow you to work on mastery of technique. And remember, in Solsai's I've written about this in the book too. In that book, I talk about a transcription of it, the last ever interview Solsai ever did before he passed away. And in that, he talks about the secret, the gokui, the secret of training. And he says, secret is in repetition. And you take any technique, any basic, any kata, any fundamental flow, and you do it a minimum of 3,000 times, and you start to get an idea of it. He said, and I have to stress, he said, that the 3,000 times is the absolute bottom line minimum. He said the reality is you want to be looking at 10,000 reps or 30,000 reps to master it. But that's that secret. And so what I've done in this book is I've designed a really cool page that allows you to take any technique that you're working on, any technique, any flow or combination, anything you want to do, and it gives you a really easy way to clarify the process. And thanks, Daniel. Good on you. Oops. It'll be available in the next few weeks. I'm really excited about it. Not the Budo, and the Budo Karate is just, it's coming. Please be patient. But some really, really interesting facts. I was contacted recently by a Japanese commentator. 2 people I was contacted by. One was a Japanese commentator, martial arts commentator and writer, and 2 is a family member in Korea of Solsai. And they've offered some unbelievably interesting information that I had trouble finding about Solsai and some of his training. So I'm rewriting sections of the book to include that. So anyway, I'll stop there, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Everybody comes along. Please, if you're not attached to Patreon, a shout out to my Patreon family. I really love you and I really appreciate your ongoing support. It allows me to do things like this. So get along, check out the Patreon link, and if you like what you see, contribute. And I'm setting up a membership web page soon. The Patreon crowd will be able to move over to that as well. And I'll be setting up the order page for the books in the very, very near future. I'm just hanging out for the order page for the logbook because I need to get the final quote from the publisher, and he's going to tell me what to charge. So anyway, keep an eye out for that. Thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. Harry, thank you. Graham Rose, always great to have you, man. Thank you for coming along. Rochelle from Canada, thank you. Say good day to everyone there at Dawson Creek. Sensei Claudio, thank you. Xian, good on you. Thank you too. Al, many thanks to you as well. And Bernardo, good on you, man, from Montreal. Look, Bernardo, look. All the way from, where's that place I got it from? I got it from a Starbucks cafe that Hugo Perez took me. Oh, there we go. That's for you, Bernardo Borelli. Mike, arigatou gozaimashita. Otsukaresama desu. Minna o koshi itadaki arigatou gozaimasu. Patty, you stayed all the way. I thought you had your session from 4 o'clock. Normally you have to cut out. Rod, thanks, man. Paul Kniep, gut, dankeschön, mein Freund. See you next week. Harry, good to see you, Patty. I hope you really sat in there and enjoyed that. I didn't realize you were still here. Patty's from the Kyokushin Shuffle. And if you're not sure of the Kyokushin Shuffle, he does some great interviews, and he's just done one recently with Nick Pettis, which is a lot of fun. I'm going to see if this link works. There you go. There's a link to Patty's Kyokushin Shuffle. I'm going to add a link. We've spoken a fair bit today about Mike Clark's book, Shingi Tai, and everyone has it on order, and that's so good, and people are reading it and stuff. This, I'm giving you a link here for those who don't know it. I'm giving you a link. This should be a link to that book that everyone's raving about. Try that link to Mike Clark's book. It really is a fantastic book. Good on you. No kids on Friday. That's the answer. That's why. Good on you, man. So good. Go and check out Patty's Shuffle there. And also, I can see it on my chinny chin. The sun's coming down. I've got training in 50 minutes. But anyway, thanks everyone for coming along. Appreciate it. See you Monday. You're embarrassed. How embarrassment. Good on you, Mike. I'm sure you'll be embarrassed as you wrap those books up and mail them out. Thank you, everybody. See ya.